This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving Southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard the Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle O'Leary here on this Monday, November 25th. Thanks a lot for joining us. Jim Coyle alongside with the man, Todd Leary. How are you, sir?
Great morning. It's beautiful out. Feeling great. It was a great weekend. Well, it was a pretty good weekend. The football team made it not a great weekend, but it was a pretty good weekend.
Yeah, the Hoosiers losing a game to Michigan over the weekend, but of course, looking back, Michigan's simply a better team. Indiana also dinged up pretty good. You start with the fact that they don't have their starting quarterback. They were without their number one target, Walt Phillier. Stevie Scott went down. Matthew Bedford went down. Ty Fogel went down. They were pretty dinged up in that game. And then, of course, Michigan exposed a defense that has just been suspect all year. I don't care what statistics they've been able to jack up against some lower teams. When it comes to playing better teams, they've just been exposed. They're not good defensively. But the good thing is they don't have to play Michigan and Ohio State each week. They get Purdue this week. It's bucket week, man. Yeah,
bucket week is always a fun time for – well, not always. This year should be a fun time for Hoosier fans. Coming off of that game, you're right. Everything that you said is feels pretty darn accurate in that the team is much better. Obviously, I think they've got a good culture that's being constructed and built. I hopefully they continue off of this and pick up some recruits based on the bowl game they go to and that stuff and continue recruiting. Recruiting's probably been the highlight of everything, but you can't blame, especially in football, you can't blame a loss of that magnitude on one player. But there's definitely a difference in what Walt Phillier would have made throughout that ball game, and I don't think it ever would have gotten to the point where it did. I mean, imagine taking the number one receiver out of every NFL team yesterday, and they would have had to change their whole game plan, and the defensive scheme would have changed. And so it just – I know we just have to glaze over it, and that's part of all of it and all that, but you sure would have liked to have been 100% going into what was the biggest game of the year for IU.
Absolutely. Of course, the men's basketball team will be back in action tonight as they take on Carl Malone U, Louisiana Tech. I think that's – what is that, an 8:30 game? What time is it?
8:30.
Gee whiz. Come on, man. They're killing me. They're killing us. They're killing us, Smalls. But
they don't realize we work Tuesday morning, do they?
I'm telling you. Plus, Indiana's going to probably be challenged more than they have been this season. Louisiana Tech is a top 100 KenPom team. They like to force turnovers. They average forcing 18, 19 turnovers a game. That's something that's going to stress this Indiana offense and see what they can get done.
Yeah, and, we've talked about it, all pre-conference season long so far at each one of these games is they've all kind of provided a little bit of a different challenge for Indiana, and they've come at them in a different way. And definitely I don't think tonight will be any different in that. And I think that this will be one of those games that Indiana, they probably have to play their best game they've played so far all around. And defensively, they're going to have to rotate a little bit better. What they don't want to do is get off to a start like they did in the last ball game against Princeton in that first half where they were pretty darn sluggish.
Yeah, we'll talk about basketball a lot more later as well. But staying on the basketball topic, how about your old friend Calbert Chaney being inducted into the National Collegiate Hall of Fame, College Basketball Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, that's an honor that I don't think it was a question of whether Calbert would ever be in that Hall of Fame. It was probably just a matter of when, and it's somewhat surprising to me that it's taken this long. I mean, the guy still leads. He's got a 25-year record for leading the Big Ten in scoring for all time. So I just kind of wonder sometimes how guys are put into that, but who cares? He's in it, and it's well-deserved. And going in there with Shane Battier, who I know he's buddies with, and there's just some great things that Calbert has done in his life. This is a personal and an individual goal that he will, that he'll cherish, I'm sure, forever. But I made this statement yesterday, and I know it's 100% fact, and that is, if Calvert could give that Hall of Fame induction and that medal back to the Hall of Fame and trade it for our 1992 national championship win, he'd have done it. I can promise you that. That's why he's the best teammate ever.
Oh, man, you want to talk about stirring up the Hoosier base when you talk about that. That just hurt. It still hurts to this day. And I know it hurts you guys worse because it was your championship loss. But, my gosh, if there's ever one, the missing banners and all that stuff, I don't know that there's one that was 75. But that's right up there to me with that 75 team not getting one, because that was just you knew that team was so good throughout the year, and you see them getting better. As fans, we could see them just getting better and solid, and man, that was hurt. That's hurtful.
Yeah, there's so many different things that go into that have to happen for a team to win a national championship. I mean, I think Duke last year and Kentucky almost every year are kind of perfect examples of that, in that not only do you have to have talent, and it's got to be meshing together, and everybody's got to be playing well together, and you got to have some luck, and everything just kind of has to go right at the right time. And I mean, look at Virginia last year. Heck, the way they won their last 3 ball games, that game against Purdue, they never should have won last year. And things just have to go your way, and you've got to have some luck. And in that scenario with that team, everything was going our way. Like, it just seemed like it felt like we were going to win. Even though you look at Duke's roster, I mean, they were an outstanding team that ended up having some great NBA players on it, but things just felt right for us, and things were going our way, and it was all kind of set up for us to win, and it just that's why it hurts so bad. I think Indiana fans feel that. I know as players, I know we felt it, and we didn't get over that one for a long, long time. Like that one, usually after the season's over, about 2, 3, 4 weeks into it, you almost kind of forget about it, and you start looking forward to next year and what you can accomplish. And some of the seniors are gone, and you look at what you're going on from there, but not that one. That one hurt. And we talked about, as a team, that one all the way through, the next season. That was a tough one.
Yeah, and there's just you mentioned there's so many teams that were, I hate to say, as good as you guys that didn't get it done. That
Sure.
Duke team last year, my God, they had 3 top 5, NBA first round picks on that team, and couldn't get it done. Of course, this is a different day and age, and it brings me to the thought of Calvert's Big Ten scoring record. That's something that probably will not be broken because of the way things have changed. But then again, if you got a kid that's just not quite NBA good enough, that's going to be there for 4 years that can score, it's possible. But man, it's going to take a pretty good effort.
Yeah, it is, and what you're saying is exactly right. There are kids who are outstanding college basketball players. I mean, their game is built for the college level. There's also kids who they have an NBA type game, and they might only be 15 or 16 years old, and they don't really fit into a college system somewhere, or they don't fit into the college game. And Calvert had probably the most ideal college basketball game that there was, and I mean, I think I saw Dan Dockich make a statement that Calvert was the easiest player he ever had to coach, and that's a great way to put it, because Calvert worked hard on his own. There was never having to push Calvert to do anything, and there was never, that situation just was. He was a perfect college basketball player, and there are a lot of guys that fit that category. And there will probably be a guard somewhere along the lines. There'll probably be a guard at a Rutgers or in Nebraska or somewhere like that that'll come in as a freshman. He'll be required to do a lot of scoring, and he's probably not an NBA type player. He'd be more like almost built like a James Blackman type player that Indiana had, and who's not quite NBA type player, and he'll score a lot of points. And that kind of player, I think, might have the opportunity to do it. But you're also right. I mean, I've been saying for a long time that record may truly stand forever.
It's like Damon Bailey's high school scoring record in Indiana. That's something that could possibly be broken because there's kids today that are just good scorers. Talk about Blackman. The Blackman's youngest brother right now is one of those. He's been a prolific scorer since he started playing, and his freshman year he scored a lot of points. I think he's a sophomore now. There's that other kid, I forget his name, Luke Brown or something, that's scored. It's not highly regarded as far as being a D1 player, but scores a lot of points. So, but then, you had Romeo come through and everybody thought he was going to get it done. And that's a lot harder than people think.
It really is. And it's the consistency level it takes for something like that. I mean, it takes an unbelievable talent. It takes the right scenario and situation. And, that kind of record, it's going to be kind of difficult. It'll almost have to be a smaller school that, that doesn't have a ton of talent surrounding whatever player that might be, because
they don't play a good schedule either.
Yeah, and they can't share they're not sharing the basketball a whole lot, because at the end of the day, I mean, Damon probably did that and was probably one of the least selfish players to score that many points there'll ever be, because he would have loved to have shared that with other players and had people help him out, but he didn't have tons of help.
It was just Damon.
Yep, it was.
Yeah, we'll see. But over the weekend, Indiana soccer program yesterday had a second-round NCAA match against rival Kentucky. They had tied Kentucky earlier in the season at Bill Armstrong Stadium. Yesterday was not any such problem, as the freshman Victor Becerra goes off with a hat trick, Todd. 3-0, the Hoosiers beat Kentucky, and they'll move on to the third round to take on UC Santa Barbara. But, man, they are led by freshmen. They've got 7 freshmen that are starting or have at different times. But, man, to do something that's only happened 2 times in the vaunted history of Indiana soccer as a freshman, that's pretty damn good.
No, it's beyond pretty good. It's incredible. And watching that game yesterday, Indiana, I mean, it was fairly obvious that they were kind of dominating the ball and they were kind of dominating possessions. I don't follow soccer that closely, but just watching the game and it being a sport, I can kind of figure out who's in control of what's going on. And the minute Indiana scored that first goal, you saw the confidence level go outside the roof. And I know they had that scoreless tie earlier in the season, but as soon as they scored that goal, you almost felt like it was going to turn ugly, and it did. And Indiana's confidence got huge. They felt like it looked like a weight came off their shoulders, and they were ready to just blow that game wide open. And I saw 2 of the 3 of those goals, and that second one was pretty. That cross in the middle and almost back-footed it in. That was pretty sweet.
And this is a team that at the beginning of the year, I don't think anybody expected to be making a run for another college cup. But I'm not going to be surprised if his team does not make the Final Four yet again and battles for a national championship, as young as they are, because they have done nothing but get better throughout the season. And we saw that with they lost 3-0 to Maryland earlier in the year. Then they go up and they beat Maryland at Maryland in the Big Ten tournament. They tied Kentucky during the season, then they get them again, and they just dominate them 3-0 in the tournament. This team is peaking at the right time, and it doesn't matter what sport you're playing. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, how many games do they play in soccer? What's their record? How many games
you know what? I have that right in front of me, and where is their stinking record? Of all places, it's not in front.
Roughly, what would you guess it is? I mean, how many games do they play?
Indiana is currently 14-2-4. Actually, they're 15-2-4 now. So,
all right. So I mean,
roughly 22 matches before tournament.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at those guys are not really freshmen anymore. I mean, they're not considering themselves brand new. They don't feel like they're playing against upperclassmen when they're out on the field. I mean, 20 games that's a long time in basketball. Obviously, football. I mean, once you've got a bunch of games and a bunch of different game scenarios under your belt, the freshman thing kind of goes out the window. I'd say freshman wise. Now, the only thing their difference would be, their body types and their builds. I mean, look at what happens in a kid's body between the time he's 18 and 22 years old. There's a lot of physical muscle development that goes along with that. So, I really think that they mentally, I don't think the freshman part of it has a whole lot to do with it. And I heard him talking on the broadcast about it yesterday about how fresh Indiana is because they're deeper than most teams that they play against. And so when you've got freshmen, that's a great thing to have, is a freshman with fresh legs and kind of a naive ability to not be too nervous about what's going on and what the big scene scenario is. And that's why these kids went to Indiana. I mean, we've talked about it. That program it's a culture of winning, and that's why these kids came there, and they've got an early chance and the early opportunity in their careers to do something big.
We got a lot more to get to today, man, on the program. We're going to talk about women's basketball. They had a big win Friday. Grace Berger is simply lighting it up. Football games over the weekend, lots to talk about there. We're going to go over our picks, too, that we made and see how we did.
Yeah, we didn't do too bad.
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll grade. We'll go through all that as well. But more importantly, coming up next, you got the great voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer. When we come back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with all that right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is former IU basketball player Derek Elson. Follow the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary. Of course, we're happy to welcome in the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, brought to you by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington, 123 South College Avenue on the square. Call 812-336-7229. That's 812-336-7229 for Jeremy Temple Law Office, personal injury, criminal, whatever you need, they'll get you taken care of. And those are the great folks that bring you Don Fischer now. Don, thanks for joining us. As always, we greatly appreciate you. It was a big, big weekend for Indiana University. A lot of things going on. None bigger, of course, than the football game. We'll get to that. Soccer had a big day with a big NCAA win over Kentucky, a rival on top of that. Women had a great win, Don, on Friday, and the men get started tonight. We'll talk about that as well. But getting back to the football game, didn't work out the way we thought. But looking back, man, Michigan was simply a better team, it looked like.
I don't think there's any question that was, that was the case. This is a Michigan football team that's been playing their best football of the year. They were expected to be a power in the Big Ten at the beginning of the season. They kind of got off to a slow start. They lost a couple of ball games that didn't look good. They didn't play all that well, it looked like, early on. But they found their range against Penn State, even though they lost that game at Penn State. They look like a different football team, and the last 4 games they've played, they've dominated their opponents. So I think they've got themselves a chance now to go into the Ohio State ball game, especially after the way the Buckeyes performed last week against Penn State, as not maybe a favorite, but certainly with the possibility of an upset brewing against the Buckeyes if Ohio State plays like they did this past weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Michigan, but just as interesting to see what happens with this Hoosier football team, because obviously they got beat up in this game against Michigan. Stevie Scott went down. We don't know how serious. It looked like the left tackle, Matthew Bedford, also went down, and his injury looked to be maybe at least out, at least for this ball game against Purdue, and maybe even for the bowl game, wherever that may take us. That said, that's a very troubling scenario for this football team, because obviously the offensive line has been a bit suspect all year. They've done a great job in pass blocking, but certainly on Saturday that was not the case. Peyton Ramsey was under pressure the entire day. And likewise, without Bedford in there, you're now down to a third guy playing that position. If that ends up being Caleb Jones from the other side, you're moving a guy from the right side to the left side where he's not as comfortable or hasn't played as much, doesn't have as much experience there. And then you're putting somebody else in that right tackle position, which even weakens the line further. If that wasn't the case, guys would have been playing a lot more than they have, because this offensive line has played just about every snap this year. So I think this football team right now, with the Band-Aid issues that they have from a health perspective, goes into this game against Purdue kind of behind the 8 ball in some respects.
Yeah, because they and talked about being dinged up. We didn't even mention the Ty Fryfogle. He went out several times in the game. You're already without Whop Phillier, your top target, and Michael Penix, of course, was out as well. So they're really dinged up on that offensive side of the ball that has been so successful. But man, you need your pieces that make it run for that engine to go.
Well, and then you've got a defense that got beat Saturday pretty badly. I mean, beat in the sense of not being able to protect the quarterback, not being able to stop the run game. Michigan did what they wanted to do most of this contest, and that's not a good sign for this football team right now, because they were playing so well. That 4-game winning streak that they had the bye week, they came back, they played Penn State really tough, and then they get pounded by Michigan, a ball club that, I guess everybody thought, well, Michigan hasn't been that great this year. But like I said before, they've been playing their best football of the season at this point in the season, and that's when you want to be playing your best. And Indiana right now is not. So it's going to be a little bit interesting to see how they go up against this Purdue team, playing in West Lafayette, a 4-7 ball club that has nothing to play for except the old Oaken bucket. That's plenty, of course, as we all know. But at the same time, they've had Indiana's number the last couple of years, and Indiana needs to get fired up for this football game and play their best football under the circumstances, or they're going to have a real problem with Purdue.
Absolutely. I mean, Purdue is, like you said, their season is pretty much riding on this game because they've got nothing else to go for. And to put a chink in Indiana's season would make them very, very happy. Indiana, at the same time, kind of needs to get back on that side where their mojo is going in their direction. And, of course, Michigan can take that out of anybody. But definitely need to get back to where they're heading in a positive direction as they head into the bowl season.
Well, there's no question. You want to go into the opportunity to practice for the next few weeks prior to a bowl game with a positive mental attitude. And obviously wins are what produce that. Playing your best football at the end of the season is also a critical factor. And honestly, I would say that Indiana, up until the Michigan game, had been playing some of their best football. But again, when you are beat up and injury-prone, or not injury-prone, but at least dealing with injuries like Indiana is, it makes it much tougher. And this football team's got to find a way to get jacked up for this football game, which I think they will. Tom Allen's really good about getting his guys fired up, and he's been able to do that throughout the year. How they respond this week, however, is going to be really important, and hopefully it's a great week of practice. hopefully they can get a couple of these guys that are dinged a little bit back and get as healthy as they can be and get ready for a real tussle, because Purdue's going to give it to them.
Absolutely. On the soccer side, the men's soccer program, the big win over Kentucky, 3-0. They get a hat trick from a freshman, Don, in NCAA tournament play. It's only happened twice ever in Indiana soccer history.
Well, you know that this team is always made up of younger players because they get so many guys that go to the next level, Major League Soccer, and are done after 2 or 3 years. Some of them, in case, just done after 1 year's time. So Todd Yeagley's always restocking the shelf, so to speak, with recruits, and does a tremendous job of that, obviously, or this team would not be in the hunt for a national championship year in and year out. And every year they're right there. So to have freshmen step up and play like they play, especially in this last ball game and this last soccer game, obviously was critical. And to beat Kentucky 3-0, a rival like they are, that's a big, big win for this program, no question about it.
And then on the women's side, Terry Morin's squad, a big win Friday. They went down to Florida and won big down there, 73-49. They've got a tough stretch coming up, though, Don. They're playing in a tournament, and I think their first game is against number 5 South Carolina, and they'll be followed by number 2 Baylor.
Yeah, there's no question. Their schedule's taking an uptick pretty quickly. And Florida was no slouch. They were like weren't they unbeaten when Indiana played them?
I think they were, yes.
Yeah, 4-0 at that point, and now they're 4-1. So to beat Florida and to do it as handily as they did it, that even kind of surprised me in the sense of it looked like it was a pretty easy game for them in the sense of how they took it over and dominated. So, but I think the challenges that the girls are facing at this point are really good coming at this particular time after dominating most of their opponents up to this point. And that's what you want to find out. That's how you test yourself. That's how you find out what you need to get better at. And if you can handle the situation of coming up against really top-flight competition, something the Indiana basketball team, I think, is going to face tonight.
Absolutely. They'll take on a team, Louisiana La Tech, that is a top 100 KenPom team. Not only that, though, they kind of specialize in turning you over. They really like to force turnovers, Don.
Yeah, they've averaged forcing 18 turnovers a ball game this year, while giving up the ball only 10 times themselves, or just over 10 times themselves. So they are really good defensively. They are one of the most veteran teams in the country, I think, tied for 3rd or 4th in experience level. They've got 11 lettermen back. They've got 4 starters back from last year. 2 other starters that played as starters the year before or were key personnel the year before and didn't play much last season after starting for 7 or 8 ball games at the beginning of the year. Both these guys suffered injuries and were out for the rest of the season. This is going to be a very experienced basketball team, really well coached. Louisiana Tech over the last 8 years, Jim, have averaged 23 wins a season under 2 different coaches. Mike White, of course, who's now at Florida, had him for 4 years, had some tremendous years there, and Eric Conkle has taken over this program in the last 4 years. And like I said, over the last 8 years, they've averaged 23 wins a season. 2 years ago, they were 17-16, so that tells you how good this program has been throughout the last 8 years of the program. And they've got a rich tradition of basketball at Louisiana Tech. Karl Malone is a former player from there. Of course, he's probably their most famous alum, and he supports that program with his money and so on to let everybody know that Louisiana Tech is one of those teams that is considered a mid-major but doesn't play like that. So this is going to be a real challenge for this Indiana basketball team tonight. I can't wait because I don't think this Hoosier Ball Club, aside from a couple of halves, has been challenged at all this year.
Yeah, and if you've watched college basketball all this season, you know in this early season, it doesn't matter who's playing whom. We've seen Evansville go down to Kentucky and knock off the number 1 team in the country. I saw Louisville yesterday have problems in a game that they were playing against a lower-rated team as well. So you've got to be on your toes at all time. And we haven't seen that starting lineup that we're probably going to see throughout the season yet of Devontae Green and Rob Finney on the floor. Maybe that comes tonight.
We'll see. To me, it doesn't matter who starts, it's who finishes and how they're playing at the end. And obviously the best part of this team thus far this year has been the fact that the last 20 minutes has been their best 20 minutes on the floor. They've gotten off to slow starts on a couple of other ball games, i.e. The game this past week against Princeton, and likewise, I think, against North Alabama. They weren't a team that dominated them in the first half. But in the second half, this team has kind of taken over, and the adjustments that Archie Miller and the coaching staff had made at halftime, I think kind of proves out that this ball club has got a lot of potential to be a really good ball club throughout the year. And again, you're looking for those challenges now to kind of tell you where you're at this point in the season, and Indiana will get that this evening.
Yeah, they definitely need to be challenged defensively because as they move on, as the schedule gets tougher, and it will soon with Florida State coming in and a match with UConn up in Madison Square Garden. UConn's having a good year already as well, but they've got to see how well they can perform against a team that can really push them defensively.
Yep, and I think that's the one thing Archie has been talking about all season at this point. He's not been very pleased with the defensive play. He got a lot happier after the second half of the game this past week against Princeton because they shut him down in the second half, basically held him to 28% shooting. So he was more pleased with the defensive performance against Princeton, I think, than he has been against any of the other victories that they've had the previous four. At North Alabama, to give you an idea of just how good Louisiana Tech is, Louisiana Tech played North Alabama in their prior game to coming to Indiana and beat them by 21. Indiana beat North Alabama by 26. So, again, this is going to be a test tonight, and people who haven't been showing up and been selling their tickets to other people or just haven't shown up, period, student body included, need to be at this ball game tonight because this Indiana basketball team is going to get a test.
Absolutely, and not to jump back to football, but hopefully next week we won't know, but we'll have probably a better idea of what bowl game Indiana might be headed towards. That, of course, that's not decided until I think December 8th, but usually we can start to get an idea. I can't think right now we're looking maybe at the Gator Bowl or Net Music City Bowl, things like that. But either way, I think Indiana's going to find themselves in a very nice bowl this year.
Well, I don't try to speculate on where Indiana's going to go in bowl games because it's really up in the air at this point. But there have been 4 or 5 talked about here in the last few weeks, and there's no question you would love to be in a warm weather bowl someplace fairly close to the state of Indiana. That's the hope. You've got 7 wins already. If you get that 8th one, it kind of gives you a better chance of getting that opportunity to go kind of where you want to go. And obviously that's why this game, along with the bucket, is so important coming up on Saturday.
Absolutely. Don Fischer, the great voice of the Hoosiers, I cannot thank you enough. As always, we always appreciate you having you here on Indiana Sports Beat.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you having me. Thanks. See you.
You betcha. There's the great Don Fischer, of course, brought to you by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington, 123 South College Avenue on the square. Give him a call, 812-336-7229. That's 812-336-7229. Personal injury, criminal law, whatever you need, Jeremy Temple will get you taken care of. Hey, we got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. We're back with more.
Down south chicken, looking for peace of mind.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moyer.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
All right, all you Hoosiers out there, make sure you listen to my main man when it's time to talk about Indiana sports. Jim Coyle. All right.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Let's flip the crack in the old school bag. This is how we do it. This is how we do it.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary here on this Monday, November 25. Welcome in. Jake's at the wheel, keep us on the track. Todd's running in circles, keeping him busy.
Yep, of course.
I saw your head shake, Jake. I know what you missed. Go ahead and hit it, man. If you've got it queued. He's getting it.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, yeah. Over the weekend, somebody had a happy birthday, turned 22, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Ish. Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah. So Tim texted in happy birthday to the Todd father.
Thank you, everyone. I got a ton of birthday wishes. It was very nice. Everybody made me feel lovely. When you're as old as I am, I mean, heck, you just kind of forget. You just hope you make it to the next one. You don't care how good they are. You just want to make it there.
You got that right. Where were we talking about? Let's see. We didn't talk about the women's basketball team yet, did we? They had a big win.
Not a lot. Just talked about their win, yeah.
Had a big win Friday. Starts a section of the schedule for them that is just flat brutal. But they went down to Gainesville, Florida, and played the Gators and just handled them 73-49. But Grace Berger is slowly – I think that she is just slowly kind of becoming the it person for that team, which it's hard to say because that team is so talented with people like Allie Patberg and Brenna Wise and Jalen Penn. And they're so deep. But Grace Berger, man, she is just stepping up. She had 23 points, and she was on fire early and just scoring at will from all over. She's just a good player. They've got an assortment of good players, but even the good teams, they have someone that they may not be your leading scorer every night, Todd, but more often than not, they're going to be up in that category.
Yeah, they are. And you know, that team has they've beaten the pants off of everyone they've played so far. So it's been you can almost look at it and say they've not been challenged a whole lot, but they're definitely coming into a part of their schedule that Yeah, I mean, we all look at it, on paper, and it's kind of our jobs. Is we look at it as brutal. They look at it as this is the fun part. This is the opportunity. This is what they, when they were working out at 6:00 in the morning all summer long. I mean, this is the stretch of games they were talking about and working out for. So they're glad it's finally here, I'm sure. And they have, you have to give them an enormous amount of credit because they have, performed, I think, exactly like you would have wanted, or the coaching staff would have wanted them to perform leading into these games. They have executed well. They've kind of determined who the leaders are going to be, and they're rolling into, a couple of big time games that'll just be, they'll be toughies and there'll be battles, but they'll find out in a week from now exactly where they stand.
The week's butt. They're going to find out in a couple of days. Thursday, happy Thanksgiving. They get to play number 5 South Carolina. The day after that, on Black Friday, they play number 2 Baylor, and then on Saturday they play Washington State. And then they get to come back to the mainland, I think, and on their way back, stop in Miami of Florida to play number 16 Miami of Florida. That's all within the next week. That's just a brutal stretch right there, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's. I know from the coaches' perspectives, or I'm pretty much assuming from the coaches' perspectives, they'd like to spread that out just a little bit and maybe have those over like a, 2-week stretch maybe. But, those back-to-back games, Thursday, Friday, those are going to be they're going to be special. They're going to be big.
I mentioned tonight Indiana, of course, playing Louisiana Tech. Afterwards, of course, we're at Yogi's after the game with Todd Leary. Man, I can't believe I didn't mention that yet. But we are after the game with Todd Leary, of course, at Yogi's tonight following the Louisiana Tech game. So a little later than normal, but if you're not in Yogi's there, you can, of course, catch us online on Facebook Live. You can also, anywhere you listen to a podcast, we'll be broadcasting through those channels as well. But it returns like always, man. Can't get rid of it, right?
Yep, no doubt about that. I mean, you lead into it with tonight's game, and the opponent's name doesn't, strike fear into Indiana fans thinking this is going to be a big game. But this team that they're playing against has blown everyone out except for Creighton. I mean, they lost to Creighton, who Creighton is a good basketball team, but every other team they played, which includes talent pretty similar to what Indiana has played. I mean, North Alabama, Mississippi Valley State, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. I mean, those teams, they've beat them by 30 to 40 points in each game. So, I think Don Fischer mentioned it a few minutes ago that, this is a team that has a bunch of seniors on it. They play that up-tempo style where they're trying to turn you over a bunch, and, they shoot the ball fairly well. They're a team that, when you average 82 points a game, which is what they're doing right now, and you force as many turnovers as they do, they've obviously got the ability to score the ball, and they try to score in a hurry. So this is a little bit different test in type of team they play, but it's a little bit different. I think it steps it up in the other team's capabilities as well.
Over the weekend, some big games in the Big Ten. Of course, we talked about Indiana, Michigan already, but Ohio State, Penn State, that game, going into that game, I could not believe the spread that they had put on a team that was a number 2 and playing a number 8 team. It was like 18.5 points. Penn State, to their credit, they didn't let Ohio State cover that spread.
Yeah, I mean, Penn State made it a game. It started out, it was going to be pretty ugly, it looked like. Ohio State got off to a decent start and moved the ball up and down the field and looked like they were going to score pretty easily. And then they just put the brakes on, it seemed like. I mean, they were stuck on 21 points for a long time. So, that was a game that I thought looked a lot closer than what it really was. But, there's a reason why Ohio State stopped scoring, and that a lot of that's got to do, I'm sure, with Penn State is a good defensive team, and Ohio State, I'm sure they figured some things out of their own on that. And Fish said something about, Michigan can maybe compete with Ohio State. If you just base it off of what in the last 2 weeks you've seen out of both of those teams, this is going to be a lot closer game and a lot better game than I thought it would be, the Michigan-Ohio State game. Like I thought Ohio State would win it pretty darn easily. And Shea Patterson, as much as I dislike him for his immature, stupid comments he made about IU the other day, he went out on the field and proved it, and he's done that for several ball games in a row. So it should be a good game. It'll be a fun one to watch.
And it's funny, Indiana, I look down there, they're 4-4 in the conference play and 7-4 overall, sitting in fourth place in the Big Ten East, a game in front of Michigan State, whom they should have beaten. This is a team that actually should be 9-2 right now. As hard as it is, I know that sounds stupid, sounds like sour grapes, but I'm talking legit. They should not. They had no chance to beat Ohio State or Michigan. Those teams are simply better, but they damn sure should have beat Michigan State, and they should have beat Penn State. If you want to be truthful about it, and they should be sitting at 9-2 regardless. They're still in a pretty good spot position bowl-wise because there are teams that can't play in some of the bowls that are actually above where Indiana would probably normally be slotted, like, say, the Outback Bowl or even the Citrus Bowl, which you would think is out of reach. But because teams have played there in the last couple of years, they can't go back. And that may open up a spot for Indiana to play in a bowl that better than what we anticipate. Right now, it looks like either the Music City Bowl in Nashville, the Gator Bowl, the Outback Bowl, or possibly the Citrus Bowl. Which again, that would be sheer luck if that were to happen. But I'll take any of those four.
Yeah, there's no question. Those would all be terrific opportunities. And you know what? It's just this is why we're competitors. This is why we're Indiana fans, because it's just hard to get over those those tough losses. And that one Saturday, leaves a bad feeling and gives you a bad just doesn't make you feel quite as good as you did Friday going into it. But you know what? They can come out and change a lot of that narrative if they can just go pound a Purdue team up in West Lafayette and give the Indiana fans the bragging rights for a year. And then go get ready for whatever bowl it's going to be. I know they'll all say, we don't care what bowl it is. We just want to go win another game. And part of that's true. But, I think also a part of it is the prestige of being able to say, hey, I played in the Gator Bowl. And there's not too many teams that can say that, and especially not too many Big Ten teams that can say that.
Nope, not at all. And just Minnesota is a team that's having a good season. They won. They covered that spread. That was one of the games that I don't remember if that was in. We'll get to the picks later on.
It was. I gave you. That was a gimme I gave you.
Oh, gave me nothing. What are you talking about? Gave me. I gave you.
Gimme.
Give me nothing. But we'll get to those picks in the next hour. I don't think we did as good as you think we did. I was looking.
We're 4-2, weren't we? We're 4-2, weren't we?
I don't think so.
Oh, I remember it being 4-2.
Yeah,
you don't lose any money on it. You don't really care.
That's true. It always remembers. That's not how I remember it.
Yeah,
but I'm looking forward to getting back out to the Assembly Hall tonight too for the basketball game. Is Indiana taking on Louisiana Tech? Man, they're going to be pushing this game, Todd. We talked about this earlier. They're a top 100 Ken Pom team. You talked about the people they played and that they played everybody tough. We look at this portion of the season. You got to be ready at all times. Louisville had trouble yesterday. They won by like 6 or 8. And Louisville's a top 5 team. We saw Kentucky go down to Evansville. I can't say that enough. We saw Kentucky go down to Evansville. I can't say that enough. I think Villanova went down yesterday. So you've got to be. It doesn't matter who you're playing right now. This is the time, man. It's almost like walking through a snake field. You just got to be looking at all times because you never know when you're going to get bitten.
Yeah, and we've talked about it in previous shows, and a lot of it is the parity and they'll call them the mid majors and schools like that. There's just so many more mid majors. There used to be about 4 or 5 teams you could call a mid major, and those are the ones that. You look at and when you play them, you'd get nervous. Now, truly, I think coaches will tell you it's about every team that they play. I mean, obviously the first few games for Indiana, I'll call them kind of layups. They were games that they definitely should have won, and should have won convincingly like they did. But this game doesn't fall in that category. Like, this team is a better team. This will be a really good team in their conference. Looking at it, you talk about being tough for Indiana to prepare on, who to go stop. I know in that Princeton game, there was 2 guys who did the majority of their scoring. That's not the case for Louisiana Tech. I mean, their leading scorer averages under 12 points a game, and they've got 5 guys that average between 9 and 12. So you never know which one of those guys is really going to step up and be the guy that has a good scoring day. And if it's that equal, it's tough to defend teams when there's no one you can really help off of. And if they've got 5 guys on the floor that can score, that makes it a lot more difficult to defend. And so this game tonight will be a tougher game. Indiana fans, don't be surprised if this isn't a much closer game than what the last ones have been.
And I mentioned it with Don, and he correctly said it doesn't matter who starts. But, we haven't seen that lineup, and I don't care that they start or not. But it's just that's generally those are the guys that play the most minutes. But we haven't seen, Rob Finney, Devontae Green, Al Durham combo out there that's starting with Justin Smith, and I assume Trace Jackson Davis would be the 5th there. So we haven't seen that lineup really come out and what they can do yet. And as we get closer to these games starting to ramp up with you got UConn on the horizon. Of course, you've got Florida State as well coming in. But it's about time to see that lineup kind of gel.
Yeah, I mean, we always just kind of term it. We haven't seen them all start together. And I heard Fish's comments about it's not who starts, it's who finishes. But I think our point more than that is we're not really saying who starts. We're saying they've not been available to play. I mean, when Finney was right when Devontae Green came back, Finney had the illness with strep throat, and so then he was out. And so it's just a matter. We're calling it who's starting the ball game, but as much as anything, it's just a matter of we haven't been able to see
the dynamic between
those
them,
teams. Yeah, those teams those players all available at the same time and playing substantial minutes together. And I think the last ball game it happened, more than it obviously has throughout the season. But I think tonight it'll definitely happen more than what anybody's seen so far.
Yeah, looking forward to it, and it should be a good game tonight. I mean,
I don't think Archie won't be playing with the lineup a whole lot tonight. I mean, I mean that from the standpoint of they've been now trying to see like who gels together and who plays together. I think they'll take the knowledge they've learned from the first 5 ball games, and tonight they'll be coming out and they'll be playing the lineup. They won't take the beginning of the game lightly. Let's put it that way, because if they do, they'll be down in a hurry.
And a team that plays good defense like Louisiana Tech does, it forces you to play good defense because they keep you on if you're not, you're on your heels both ends of the court.
Yep, no doubt about it. They're there's no rest because a lot of times you go down on offense. If a team sits back on their heels and they're just trying to keep you out of the lane, you don't really have when there's not crazy ball pressure and them denying every passing lane. It's not that intense on that end of the court. Defensively, you got to be head on a swivel the whole time and always trying to help. And there's always a place you could be moving to. And the offensive end, there'll be no rest. This team will be down there trying to turn you over. And when they turn you over, they try to get down the floor and score, averaging 82 points a game. They're going to try to put it in the basket right away.
I wish I would have coined the phrase head on a swivel.
Yeah.
Great term. Great term.
I'm going to start using it more. If it bugs you, I'm going to start using it a little bit more.
I really, really like it.
Okay, cool.
So that means you'll stop using it.
It means I'll quit using it for sure. You've heard it for the last time.
Exactly. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting out to the Simon Scott Assembly Hall tonight to see this matchup tonight, even though it's a little later than we would like. But a lot coming up this week, man. You got soccer going to the round 3 of the NCAA tournament, and I'm telling you, I don't know why, but the last couple of years, this team has gone to the College Cup with teams that were probably should have won a national championship, at least one of those. This was probably not viewed as one of those teams, but now I'm thinking Indiana may be a sleeper, and it's hard to say Indiana as a sleeper when they're one of the most dominant teams in the sport. But with all those freshmen and new faces, I don't think that this was expected of them, and here they have come back and they've won back-to-back Big Ten titles. They've won the Big Ten tournament title, and they're doing this with all the freshmen. And then now they've hit tournament play. They just dispatched a very good Kentucky team, number 19 in the country, 3-0, and they're just kind of gelling right now, man. So I'm thinking good things for this soccer program as well.
Yeah, they're they're fun to brag about as Indiana fans, Indiana University fans. I think a lot of the basketball team and football fans and everybody, we kind of pile on and jump that bandwagon and brag about how good they are. But we've been able to do that for a long, long time because the Yeagley family just developed a culture of winning there that has continued since, back in the late 80s and early 90s.
That's right, baby. Winning in Tiger blood. That's what does it for you. Hey, we've got a lot more coming up from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary will continue to roll on right after this. Back with more. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary here on this Monday, November 25, heading down Thanksgiving week, man. You all fired up, ready for Thanksgiving?
That doesn't even make any sense, does it?
Nope.
I mean, how could it be that late in the year already?
It's crazy. How could it be that late in my life, it seems like?
Yeah, that's a good point, too. But no, I college football and the NFL and all that, I mean, that whole weekend of Thanksgiving is just always a fun weekend and kind of gives you a little break before football season's almost kind of over for college and basketball season really ramps up. So I love a lot of these tournaments that take place all week long.
Yes, me too. There's a lot going on. The only good thing about the early college basketball season is sometimes you see some unique matchups. Like the Jimmy V coming up. Indiana participates in that. They'll be taking on UConn. UConn has won the most national championships in the last 20 years, Todd, with 4. So they're a traditional program as well.
That's a trivia question that would stump a lot of people because there's not a chance in the world I would tell you that.
Shocking, isn't it?
Yeah. The one they won, didn't they win one like 4 years ago that just came out of nowhere and made no
beat
sense?
Kentucky. Or was that the one they beat Kentucky?
I can't remember, but it just, I mean.
Yeah, they beat Kentucky, I think.
I don't even think they were any good all year long, and somehow they just won the national championship.
Kevin Ali. Wasn't it Kevin Ali, the coach, who's not even there anymore?
Was it? I thought he was only there for like a year or two.
I don't remember.
That was his first year.
I don't know.
Say it, was that Jake?
That was his first year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was his first year. That was the first year after Jim Calhoun retired.
Wow.
Amazing. But
He didn't last very.
No, he ran a foul. Of things, so didn't.
But they're good. I mean, heck, I don't know if you watched them at all this weekend, but they're good. Like they.
Oh yeah.
They beat Miami, a Florida team yesterday by 25, 30.
A decent Miami of Florida team.
Yeah, they beat it by 25 points. Yeah, I can look at that.
Speaking of Miami of Florida, football, they got beat by Florida International this weekend, man.
Yeah, that's a program that, I mean, I just don't even know it's possible to clean that one up.
Well, I laugh, but Indiana has a similar situation this week as they travel to West Lafayette on Saturday. This is a game that there's no doubt Indiana is the better team. Indiana has the better offense, the better defense. But guess what? It doesn't matter. It's Indiana and Purdue. It doesn't freaking matter. Now, they've got the bucket to play for in this, and they talk about it all week, and the coaches talk about it. When you were playing, you didn't have the bucket. It was just Purdue. It was just beating Purdue. What was it like? Because I know Knight took it to another level for Purdue, didn't he?
You could take a bucket to the head. You could take a Myles Garrett bucket to the head if you don't win that one. But yeah, it was. That's just one of those games. And the funny part is it's unspoken. It is never like going into it. Same thing with Kentucky. It's not like they ever bring up the name. Hey, you know what? It's Purdue this week. We're going to have to. We're going to have to do something a little bit different. When the coaches leave the locker room, that's when all the players, when we would all talk about it, be like, hey, we know whatever has to happen, we have to win this game no matter what, because it's treated a little bit differently. Now, Coach Knight always had that, that mantra all the time of no game is more important than another. Every game, the only important game is the next one you have, and all that. That's just a bunch of crap. Nobody. That's coach speak. That's just stuff they have to say, but it's not true. And we definitely got treated different if we lost to Purdue or Kentucky than we did if we lost to Michigan or somebody, or Kansas or somebody like that. So that's just coach speak and what they're supposed to say. But there's definitely a difference when you play this game. And Purdue's basketball arena is I don't think there's any question it's the loudest arena in the country. It's the loudest arena I've ever seen in any capacity. And I think a lot of that has to do because of whenever I'm there, IU's always playing, and that's who they want to beat the most, and rightfully so. But you hear announcers talk about it every time they go in there. Is they talk about how loud that arena is. And, from a football perspective, there's not a lot to play for this Purdue football team right now. And, they can definitely get some momentum coming out of their season. Obviously, they recruit a lot of the same kids. And if they can come out and put up some big offensive numbers and figure out a way to make it difficult and beat IU, that's a big deal for them. And that kind of saves a little bit of their season and makes them feel definitely much better about themselves in the offseason.
Is Mackey louder than Assembly Hall?
Oh, my gosh. It's not even close.
Really?
Not even close.
Now, you're saying it from a standpoint, though, as being an Indiana player, it's not going to be as loud to you. They're not going to be
No, just trust me. It's not even.
I believe you.
It's not even close. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the game is. Like how Assembly Hall was when Christian Watford made that 3 to beat Kentucky. It's that loud every game when IU plays there.
I can tell you this, it's a damn sight better to watch a game from because it's cylindrical, is perfectly in size, and it seats about 14,000, which is about 3,000 less. But everyone has the same distance from the court almost.
Yeah, there's not as many bad seats. The great seats are all going to be fairly comparable. I do like that circular arena. I like where it's just all kind of encased in there, and there's no, you can't see the ceiling really at any parts of it. But the acoustics in Mackey Arena are just different. I mean, everything echoes off the ceiling or the roof, and when you're in there by yourself and you bounce a basketball, I mean, it's echoing off the roof every time you bounce a ball, and you can imagine what that does to 14,000 screaming fans in there in a game, and it's just. It's cool. Like, I'm saying it from an awesome perspective. It's a great place to go and play, and it's a very, very difficult place to go and play. It's not. It's just different. It doesn't matter how. I'll never forget a quote I heard from Craig Riley. And one year they beat us so that we didn't win the outright Big Ten championship. And I'll never forget. Coach Knight made us listen to the radio broadcast on the bus on the way to the airport, and they were interviewing Craig Riley, and he made a statement about how, they didn't care. He said something to the effect he didn't care about what happened the rest of the season or what had happened all season. They were able to ruin our season, and man, I'll never forget that because it got replayed many, many, many times for years to come.
Kind of reaching into the mailbag here. Tim texts in a different question. Why do the Detroit Lions always play on Thanksgiving Day? Well, it's just a tradition. It started a long time ago. I don't know how it started or why it started, but it's been going on since I was a kid, man. The Cowboys and the Lions.
It's just one of those things you're not gonna change. There was probably a day and time when everybody wanted to see the Detroit Lions play on Thanksgiving Day. Those days are just gone. Those days are over. But it's just what you said. It's a tradition that I just don't think the NFL sees that tradition as bigger than, how good that team is right now. I'm surprised they haven't changed it. Money's become so much bigger of a factor in the NFL that I'm surprised they don't switch it for some better matchups, but I don't.
He also had to turn the radio down for listening to all those positive Purdue comments.
I said they had a great arena.
I'm just kidding, man. Hey, I'm just reading the mail, man. I'm reading the mail. But, we got a lot. It's just a lot going on this week, and it's Thanksgiving. So we got to squeeze a lot in. You got games on both sides. As a player, and I know that they don't go home because of that, but it's got to be – they try to make it as little disruptive as possible at the same time of trying to provide – a Thanksgiving experience because these guys don't get to go home. The football team's in action, the soccer team's in action, the basketball teams are in action. So they have to stay here and practice. And so you have to move your Thanksgiving to a different style. Of course, turkey in the tutor room for the soccer team always means that they're still going in the tournament. So that's a big thing for them, a tradition for them. But what's it like having to do the holidays like that and sandwich that around some hard-ass practices?
Yeah, it sucks. It's terrible. I mean, I'm the first one to tell you it sucks. We used to go eat dinner at one of the doctor's houses, either Dr. Rink or Dr. Bomba's house. So we actually were kind of allowed to go home if you lived close enough. So I would go home, but Thanksgiving morning, I'd always have to leave about 10 in the morning and be back here. We would practice probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then be done and go eat at one of the doctor's houses. And then they always made sure that we practiced at like 8 a.m. the next day on
Get that
Friday.
Turkey out of you. No tryptophan.
Yeah, and it was always one of the worst practices. The preseason, before any game start, those are always the hardest and worst practices. You do the most, grueling running and all that stuff. And then that kind of slows down a little bit once the games start. But there's they're like go back to it, revert back to it for these one day of Black Friday means a lot different to IU basketball players than it used to for shoppers because, man, we used to come out there and we would have to run that turkey off, and it was never a fun day. And there's a lot of trash cans on the side of the court for that particular day. But yeah, the Thanksgiving holiday break, the best is if you get to go to Maui or get to go to somewhere like that because that really breaks it up, and you can't have crazy, ridiculous practices when you've got games, kind of circled around Thanksgiving Day. So that was the best when we would get to go to Maui. And now there's so many different tournaments that I'm sure it's a little bit different for teams nowadays. But yeah, that break used to really suck for us.
Yeah, how's Bob Knight's Thanksgiving turkey?
Yeah, Dr. Bomba's was pretty good. I know Mrs. Bomba used to put on quite a spread for us over there, but half the time we practice really hard and then go eat, and you're never all that hungry. I mean, that's one of those things that we would have loved to have packed up a sandwich and taken it home. I can tell you, the big wheel used to be open on Thanksgiving night, because after we would all not really feel like eating after practice, about midnight, you'd find us all at the big wheel eating over there.
What happened to the big wheel?
They closed it down and built that steak and shake. They tore it down and built that steak and shake that's right there.
Man, tradition.
I love the big wheel. Man, I loved it.
Man, we got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Up next, we got Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosiers going to join us. Stay tuned. We got plenty more back right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moyer.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is former IU basketball player Derek Elson. Follow the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
I'm a smoker. I'm a midnight toker.
At the very end where he says, "Oh,
get my loving on the run."
Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary here on this Monday. Thanksgiving week, man. A lot to be thankful for. Appreciate you joining us. Mike Schumann stepping on with us now from the Daily Hoosier. Michael, how's it going? Cannot complain, man. Just coming off a big weekend. Lots going on. Of course, loss for Indiana on the football field. We talked about that earlier, but at the end of the day, Michigan's just a better program no matter what. Indiana certainly was not at their best in how they played, but also they were shorthanded. You start off without your starting quarterback on Michael Penix, and you don't have Walt Fillier. You lose Ty Freifogel in and out the game. You lost Stevie Scott throughout the game. You lose Matt Bedford. That's a lot of deficiencies on offense right there.
Yeah, and I don't think you're suggesting that it would have made a difference in the outcome, but you're absolutely right to bring it up. I mean, especially, even Michael Penix and Fillier, those are in that type of game. Those are two guys that are just absolute difference makers. We've talked about it all year. The difference between Penix and Ramsey comes down to games just like that, where you're talking about, big throws, tight windows. Ramsey couldn't make those throws, and that wasn't a surprise. I mean, Michigan's defensive backs are at an elite level, and Indiana's receivers couldn't get separation. So the only way you're going to get passes to your receivers is to absolutely be on the mark and, with a really strong arm. And those throws just weren't there. And moreover, Ramsey had no time in that game. And he didn't have a guy like Walt Fillier who can go across the middle and really loosen up a defense. And so, those variables with the other guys that you mentioned, I mean, it wasn't that much of a surprise. I mean, I guess in game it was surprising because of just the way that, Indiana competed in the first quarter and made you think that they were going to hang around and make it interesting. And how dramatically that changed. But overall, kind of going into the game, that outcome wasn't surprising because it was hard to imagine where Indiana was going to get its firepower without a guy like Fillier and without a guy like Penix out on the field.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Freifogel kind of stepped into Wap's role, but he gets hurt a couple times in the game, so you don't have him. So now you don't have the replacement for the guy who was the guy, which, again, made it just more and more difficult. But we'll see how they can move forward now because you got a big game this week. You got to get healthy, and they're not going to – I don't know that they're going to have Matt Bedford. Hopefully they'll have Wap back. But this is a big game for a number of reasons. Obviously, it's Purdue, so it's gigantic in that regard. But you got to get some of this momentum back that you had because that Michigan loss took a lot of wind out of the sails. And going into bowl season, you want to have that momentum on your side. And plus – it will help determine where they end up in a bowl game.
Yeah, absolutely. I tweeted about that at the very end of the Michigan game and got a lot of blowback from that tweet. People are kind of saying, come on, this is still a great season. But I think you're absolutely right. I think just think of it this way. The difference between a win and loss this Saturday against Purdue, you're talking about an 8-4 season if you win, 5-4 in the Big Ten. Both of those marks have not been achieved since back into the early 90s for this program. Those are things you can hang your hat on. But on the other side, you're talking about a 3-game losing streak to end the season, a 3-game losing streak to Purdue. Those are things that people are going to say, okay, here we go again. Nice little run there, but it's still Indiana football. Because if you look at the record of the teams that Indiana's beaten right now, as it stands right now, the record of those teams in the aggregate is 19-59. And obviously Purdue wouldn't substantially increase that, but you're not going to think about that as much if you're an 8-win team and you're playing in a bowl game, maybe down in Florida. It's the positives are going to outweigh the negatives, but the naysayers are always going to be there for Indiana football. And if you end in a rivalry game where you're a 7-8 point favorite, well, I don't think you're going to get too many people that are going to be on the bandwagon anymore.
Well, the naysayers are going to be there as long as you lose games like at Michigan State and to Penn State, because those are both games that unequivocally Indiana should have won. And that's without question to me. So when you start doing those things, then you can kick the naysayers out. Then it doesn't matter what they say. But, yeah, they've got to do something to keep this season from just being an average season. And beating Purdue, getting to 8 wins, that does the job for me, because they're going to end up also being in a very nice bowl afterwards. And so it would be and it's a great season to build on. So, and next year, man, You don't want to look forward yet because there's a lot more to deal with this year. But next year's schedule is sitting very well for Indiana. You're going to have road games at Michigan and Ohio State, but you got Michigan State coming here, Penn State coming here, and I think they have a shot to win 9 games next year right off the bat, just looking at the schedule.
Yeah, I agree that the schedule for next year is very promising. If you can start to think about, putting up back-to-back 8+ win seasons, that's something that you can point to and say, okay, there's real momentum here with this program, and that's possible. I think Indiana, what was it on Saturday? They just had 16 seniors that were recognized, and a lot of those guys really aren't contributors to the team. And so most of this program is going to be back next year playing against that favorable schedule. So the opportunity's there, but, as we've said, you can really kill a lot of momentum going out with a 3-game losing streak, including a loss to Purdue.
Let's hope that that's not something they have to worry about. Then tonight on the hardwood, Indiana is back at it as they'll take on Louisiana Tech, a team that's a top 100 KenPom team. I talked about this extensively with Todd earlier, and they're a team that likes to force a lot of turnovers. This is going to be a nice little test for this team as they head down their schedule is about to get a little more difficult after this. But this is going to be a nice little test for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, it's definitely the best team they've played this year. It's a good little primer for what's to come here starting next week when they start to play the first of 24 in a row against high major opponents. I think, as you said, Louisiana Tech forces turnovers. They're an aggressive defense. They start 5 upperclassmen, so they're unlike what we see in college basketball today. They're one of those mid majors that does have an experienced team and does have some continuity, which will always make somebody challenging. And on the offensive end, Louisiana Tech is a team that doesn't turn the ball over. I think they're number 1 in the country in steal percentage in terms of having the ball stolen from them. And I think they're 10th in, not turning the ball over. So this is a team that, is experienced and competent and should give Indiana a good test. If the formula for early season success for IU has been to utilize their size and dominate people in the paint, that's probably where they're going to go, because this isn't an especially big La Tech team. But I think they're just going to make everything a little bit harder than what we've seen thus far.
Absolutely, and we'll get a chance to see maybe the lineup start to solidify tonight. I talked about that with Todd too, that we haven't seen the guys that we're probably going to see the most of together yet. Tonight may be one of those instances as we get further along. I know they've been trying to, I don't want to say limit the minutes of Devontae Green, but ease him back in. And the same with Rob Finney, both those guys in and out of the lineup. They haven't spent a lot of time in the lineup together. So that may be happening, something we see tonight.
Yeah, those guys are almost undoubtedly the starting backcourt, but they've never started together this year. So hopefully that's what happens. I guess we don't really know why Finney left the game last weekend. There's some speculation about a shot to the head or eye, or we're not really sure what happened and haven't really heard anything since. So obviously one of the things we'll be looking at pregame warmups is whether or not he's going to play tonight, whether or not Deron Davis is going to play. He was not dressed in the last game as well. This could be the first game where all 11 scholarship players are dressed and ready to go, and the timing for that would be good, not just because you're playing a good team tonight, but just, again, to start building some continuity going into when the schedule really ramps up next week.
Looking at recruiting, of course, a big loss last week is Dawson Garcia, as we expected, chose to further his college career at Marquette. Yet another miss for an out-of-state player for Archie. And more importantly, though, and Todd disagrees with me here, they didn't get the big man that I think that they needed to have in the fold next year to start learning. Because now, to me, they're going to have to go one of two ways. They're either going to have to go the grad transfer route or possibly JUCO. Otherwise, you're looking at having a bunch of freshmen in there in a couple of years.
Yeah, you're certainly running the risk of having a young front court, which is not what you want to do optimally. Because we've heard Archie suggest that being a young guy trying to play in the Big Ten in the front court is not an easy thing to do physically. And so, that specter out there looms that you're going to have a bunch of freshmen trying to compete in the Big Ten here in a couple of years. But I think by the same token, because Indiana is so experienced and deep in their front court this year and most likely next, that's probably at least a big part of the reason why Garcia went elsewhere is just, the playing time aspect of it. It wasn't clear that he was going to come in and have as big of a role as he maybe expects that he could in another program, especially like a Marquette. So I have no doubt that contributed to the decision, but Indiana's going to have to definitely load up in the class of 2021 now if they don't fill in the spot, as you suggested, at a grad transfer or JUCO type level. I suspect if option one is grad transfer, I think option two is just to save that scholarship and load up in 2021. They're still going to return 9 of their 10 top scorers next year. They're still going to return their top 9 rebounders next year. So it's not a immediate issue that you're going to see, but you're right. It is an issue in terms of, longer term, longer outlook, front court, depth and youth.
Does not landing Garcia or someone of that ilk in this class affect the recruitment of Christian Lander?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I mean, I think Lander, we're going to keep seeing over time his recruitment is going to expand more and more nationally. It's been more of a, an Indiana, Louisville, Michigan type of recruitment. But, you're talking about a 5-star that's the number 1 point guard in his class. Indiana's had the early advantage of being close to home and being in his ear and being, on top of him from day one. But, as we've seen it countless times, as guys' profiles increase and as, the national programs start to take notice that things can change pretty dramatically. So I don't think Indiana is going to want to expect that they have that one in any sort of lead or, can count on that one. Cause I just think, from what I'm hearing, Louisville's strong, Michigan's strong, but I'm also worried about the Dukes and Kentuckys of the world stepping in late like we've seen and not having guys, I think to your question, guys like Lander want to play with other top talents. And, I think that they're going to have to prove that they can bring those guys in. If you want to spin it the other way, he's good friends with Trey Galloway and Anthony Lilly, played with those guys in AAU.
So is Dawson Garcia.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, recruiting's crazy. You try to figure this stuff out and you think you have the answer, and you got to remember that it's really a kid by kid basis, family by family basis. None of this stuff is science. It's an art to try to figure it out. And it's, I think when you're talking about a guy that's 16 and has 2 years of high school left, who the heck knows, really, if you want to be perfectly honest about it.
It's like spinning plates with your hands, your nose, and balancing a basketball on your foot, because that's guessing. It's a guessing game. It's why I ask, and this next question falls right into that category. Do they try to fill this scholarship either through the grad transfer route or JUCO, or do they bank it for 2021? I mean, I know that those are both options, but what's most likely for them to do? I think they're going to end up banking it, because I think they put a lot of the resources in to trying to get Garcia. Didn't happen. And now it's like Johnny come lately. So I think they're going to end up banking it.
Yeah, could be. Although I guess grad transfer route, you're still effectively banking it if you're getting a guy that's only coming in for 1 year. So I think they'll take a good, long, hard look at who opens up after the season. It's hard to know what your options are because those announcements don't generally come out until the season ends. But if, I think by all accounts, Joey Brunk was a great addition last year. If you can go get a guy that can, be a positive for your program and be a positive on the court, I think you do that, especially if you're not tying up a scholarship into 2021. So I think they'll definitely take a look at that. But I don't know if I truly believed Archie back in May when he told us that, only having 11 scholarship guys was optimal, because,
that's a bunch of crap. And everybody knows that's the thing. Everybody knows that's a bunch of crap. I mean, what other teams do you see that are banking scholarships year after year? The only reason you do that is because you can't land the people you want.
Yeah, but what
Yeah.
other teams do you see that use the people in those
Oh, now we're
scholarships
here
at
for
12,
the gallery.
12,
Cheap
13,
seats.
and 14? So let's say they get 12, 13, 14 guys on scholarship. You're not going to see 3 more of those guys play. So why do you care? The top 11 are the only ones that are going to play anyway.
For Indiana, it's been because they have been beset by injuries throughout Archie's tenure and needed each and every scholarship player that they've had. Last year, they didn't even have enough still with the way it was affected.
I will guarantee you 2 years ago, you were sitting there saying there was some kid that they didn't land nationally, that this is really going to set them back, and Archie didn't get him. And then they got Trace Jackson Davis. And so now it erases your memory and you forget about that.
No, that's not true.
And
Actually,
I think 2 years from now,
DJ
the
Carton
same
is
thing.
one that they didn't get, that they still haven't landed another point guard. And I think it's still having an effect because they haven't been able to land a point guard. So
If they had another point guard right now, where would he play?
he'd be playing.
Who would sit out that he would play in front of?
Rob Finney, who has been sitting out. No, who has been sitting out because of injury. He can't play all the time. He's shown over 2 years. He's missed a lot of games. And it's incredibly important to have that guy there instead of having to move guys from a different position in to play that position. I just think it's better to have someone who is attuned to playing that role and to be able to jump in and play that role without
It's a
missing
good thing.
beat.
It's a good thing you know something about football.
I'm telling you.
Well, Todd, it's a good question for you because I think what Archie was saying back in May is, if you start to get into that 12th and 13th guy, and he seemed to be suggesting that there's some potential chemistry issues that can emerge because somebody's not going to play. I mean, back in your day, was that a legitimate concern that the guys that aren't playing, they're obviously not going to be happy if they're not buying in, and so I guess. Is what Archie is suggesting there? It sounds to me like you're saying that's legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to go get a kid who is. You're not going to go get a kid that is okay. That's ranked nationally. That's okay with playing 15 to 20 minutes a game. I mean, you're just not going to get them. I mean, you can't even take Trace Jackson Davises of the world and say, hey, you know what? You're going to start for us, but you're only going to play 20 to 22 minutes a game. That's just they're not going to come there. And Dawson Garcia's wouldn't have come here, and you wouldn't have gotten Leal, you wouldn't have gotten Galloway. You can't tell those guys they're only going to play 22 minutes a game because you've got that much talent on your team. Yes, you make the point these guys like to play together and they play AAU together and all that. Believe me, they're playing more AAU games together than they'll ever play together in college. I mean, they're playing 90 games a summer. So they'll do all of that and enjoy it and have fun together and go do that. But then when it's time to make their decision on where they're going to play their college career and in the top 100's perspective, what's going to propel them to the NBA the fastest, it's not going to factor a whole lot into, what other players are on that floor. I mean, there's very few guys nowadays that pick a school because they want to win a national championship. They're picking a school because that's what's going to get them to the NBA the fastest. And I think that was definitely Dawson Garcia's choice. I mean, he's not going to Marquette to win a national championship, and we're all pretty aware of that. So he's making that choice as an individual, not as, I think Trey Galloway would tell you right now. I mean, his goal when he comes to Indiana is to win a national championship, and that's what all 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 guys that were on our team back in the 90s for Bob Knight, that's what we were all there for. And that's why, I made the statement yesterday of Calvert being inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's why he's the greatest teammate ever, because he'd give up that Hall of Fame induction. He'd give up any personal individual credit or awards to have won a national championship. And I think if you gave, I'm just going to use him as an example because he's the most recent example. But if you take a kid like Dawson Garcia, who's making a decision to go to a school that we would all bet right now is not going to win a national championship during his time there, if you gave him the option of being the number one overall pick in the draft or winning a national championship, he'd pick the number one overall pick in the draft. And that's not what we had back in the 90s.
I don't know if that team gets out of the second round of the tournament.
I don't know if that team gets to the tournament, but it won't matter because he'll average 25 and a whole bunch of points because they're not that good.
Yeah, there's no doubt that those kids are looking for their fastest path to the NBA. I mean, not every kid. I agree. Trey Galloway's not one of those kids. I mean, although if the opportunity presented himself, he'd no doubt jump on it. But he's not. That's not top of mind like it is with some kids. And I think you're right. Garcia falls in that category.
If you can't get those kind of kids, why are you recruiting them? Because they've all turned them down. Why waste the time and resource to recruit those kids if you know that there's no chance they're going to come here?
Well, I mean, I'm going to steal your answer here, and I'll wait to hear your answer too. But I mean, the reason is because you need one or two of those guys. You need one or two Trace Jackson Davises, and it'd be great to have. It would be great to have Dawson Garcia. You'd be insane to say you don't want him on your team. However, I don't view that it's a huge loss if he doesn't come there. I think that's more of a luck thing where he's going to pick the school that's the fastest path for him to get to the NBA versus the one that's going to be the best for Indiana University. And I as an Indiana fan, I want a team full of kids that want to go to Indiana University to win a national championship, not to have the best recruiting class in the nation and have a top 5 pick. I want to win a national championship.
I don't view him as a loss per se. What I see is looking forward that 2 years from now, when he would have been had a year of experience under him or whoever that person is, they're going to be extraordinarily young now because they don't have that guy that's going to have learned under the people in front of him and can step up into that role. Now they're going to have to rely on freshmen.
Yeah, but you got to be willing to swing and miss on a guy like Garcia. I mean, it's recruiting. Yep. Even the guys like Duke and Kentucky, I don't know what their success rate is, but it's less than 50%. They're not getting everybody that they want either.
I'm not saying that. I get that. But here's the thing. They missed on every one of them that's not from the state.
I mean, that's overstating it a little bit, right? Geronimo's out of state.
Geronimo's not an elite player. He's not an elite player. You're right as a trend.
Yeah, you're right as a trend, but I don't think that impacts the way you go about targeting recruits. You had to go after Garcia, and now you got to figure out your next step, which is, to me, it's focusing on
what was Garcia's final 4 teams? What was it he now? I can't remember what they were.
Indiana, Marquette, Minnesota, and Memphis, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So look at that. I mean, why was Kentucky not in there? Why was Duke not in there? Like.
Because they're full at that position?
That's not true.
Kentucky
would take any kid, no matter what position he played. If they had 11 point guards, they'd take a 12th if he was rated in the top 20.
They may take him, but there's, like you said, he wants to make an impact and play, and he's not going to play right away at those places.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we could sit here and battle this all day long. I mean, I don't think losing him is the end of the world. I don't think he's crumbling here. Well, you sure as hell talk about it a lot.
Yeah, you're missing the point. I'm not saying him. It's not him it's the fact that a positional player.
So do you not like the makeup of Indiana's team right now?
I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about the future, Todd. I'm talking about the future. What these recruits will actually play, not when they're recruited.
How do we get to this point?
Because we're not talking. I'm not talking about when they're recruited is not relevant. When they're going to be playing for Indiana is relevant, and when this particular position will be at Indiana 2 years from now, they're going to be barren in the front court, and that's what I'm talking about. They're going to have very little experience, and they're going to be freshmen. So that's what you're going to be relying on. You have to look at the future when you're building a program that is going to sustain success year in and year out. You have to build for the future. And I'm talking about the future, not today.
And I think if you look at the 2021-22 roster, you're right. I mean, Brunk's gone, Deron Davis is gone, Trace Jackson Davis very well could be gone. So you don't have any true size down low, either on the current roster or in committed recruits going forward to that year. But there's a long way to go. You're just going to be young.
Yeah, you got a long time, a lot of different kids' names that'll pop up between now and then that we don't even know of what they are today. And at some point, you've just got to kind of trust you got to trust the coaching staff, and you got to trust what they're able to do and accomplish. I mean, they've got a product on the floor right now that I kind of enjoy watching play, and they're responsible for the majority of those guys being there, and I'm pretty excited about that. And so, what they do a couple of years from now, people never used to, Now, recruiting's different, AAU's different. I understand that. But people never used to question Bob Knight and say, oh, my gosh, what are you going to do 2 years from now? They just trusted the fact that he was going to come up with somebody, and I do the same thing.
Because he had a proven track record of doing that.
But because it wasn't top 100 kids. He got kids that he wanted that fit his program, and when you say Geronimo's not an elite player, you don't know that. You don't know if he's going to be an elite player at the college level or not. He might not be a Dawson Garcia who's going to go to the NBA right away, but he may be an outstanding Calbert Chaney type player that's great in college basketball systems. So I know we have to talk about it, but you can't be negative about what it's going to be 2 years from now. You can question who it's going to be, but 2 years ago, I can assure you, you couldn't have told me what this Indiana roster was going to look like. Joey Brunk was not on anybody's system, and we wouldn't have been sitting here saying Devontae Green was going to be a huge difference maker, and Rob Finney's health was going to be very important into how Indiana's season went. There's no way we would have known that.
Why did they have to get Joey Brunk?
Get. I mean, that's the fun part of it. That's what you want. I mean,
the reasoning is there.
In all reality, you want to know the answer to that? Because he wasn't recruited out of high school. He'd have gone to Indiana straight out of high school, and I can assure you of that.
Yeah, there's no doubt he wanted to be. He is where he wanted to be, and that in and of itself is invaluable to a player, I think.
Without a doubt. No doubt.
Man, that's going to wrap it up for this set. See, it's much more fun than it used to be now, right?
It's great hearing you get set straight, man.
Oh, my God. Here we go. Every time.
Attaboy.
Everybody's got to jump on the bandwagon. Kiss it up. Suck it up.
It's because it's the bandwagon that's heading in the right direction.
Oh, please.
Why is it
Reality
Coyle
sets
and
in.
Leary and not Leary and Coyle, man? Leary's driving the ship.
Yeah, hey, you know what? You fight the battles you really care about.
Where's the off button? Hit the off button.
I'll let him have that one.
Somebody hit the off button. Hey, that's going to wrap it up. Mike, thanks a lot for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Talk to you later, gentlemen.
All right. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier joining us. Hey, we got another segment coming up before we wrap it up and get out of here. Having a lot of fun here on this Monday. Welcome back after this to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We'll be back.
You're the cutest thing that I ever did see. I really love your peaches. Want to shake your...
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
All right, all you Hoosiers out there, make sure you listen to my main man when it's time to talk about Indiana sports. Jim Coyle. All right.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary here on this Monday, November 25. It's Thanksgiving week. It's bucket week. It's all kinds of good things. Indiana women's basketball's in action on Wednesday. We got the men's team tonight at Simon Scott Assembly Hall taking on Louisiana Tech. Immediately following that game, of course, after the game with Todd Leary comes to you live from Yogi's. You can join us at Yogi's, or you can pick up the action on Facebook Live, Indiana Sports Beat site, or any other sites we farm that out to. You can also listen to it as you do the show on any podcast location, whatnot, as that will be there as well. So plenty to get to. It's been a fun day already, but a lot to get to, a lot going on this week, Todd. A lot of stuff to squeeze in, man. With being Thanksgiving week. And we talked about it earlier, having to go through and it's how it changes the schedule. But when you're so used to a schedule being like it is, and whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever we're talking about, how does that disrupt the flow of what you're doing? Or do they do a good enough job keeping that rolling?
No, they definitely don't do a good enough job of keeping it rolling because it's nothing the same like being at home. But they do the best they can, and that's what you sign up for. When you're an athlete and you've got a scholarship, that's part of the price you pay. And one of the things that you have to give up is some of the holiday stuff. And, that's just what it is. That's the way that it is. And no one would trade it for the world. We know that going into it, and that's just the reality of it.
And to be truthful, we think about it more with football than anything. And this week is now, as it's turned out, it's rivalry week. Not just Indiana Purdue, but Texas A&M, or Alabama Auburn, whomever you're talking about, Kentucky Louisville. Those rivalry games come up now. So now you've got the rivalry game, one of the biggest regular season games that you have in this week, and that's got to impact that as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, this part of the thing is a big deal. I mean, Indiana football will always take the opportunity to have, to miss more of the holiday season because they're preparing for a bowl. That's the icing on the cake for their season. So they're always going to take that. But from a basketball perspective, you always know Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, during their 4 or 5 year period there, they just really don't exist with your families. I mean, they just don't happen. And, it's okay. There's a lot of other trade-offs that are huge positives that go along with it. But that's definitely one of the things that people don't think about on Thanksgiving Day, when everyone's out with their families and talk about how great it is to be around your family. I mean, the basketball team's out practicing on the floor, beating each other up. So, and the football team's doing the same thing, and this year's soccer team will probably be doing the same thing. So, there's just a lot of things that you don't think about. We only think about the IU basketball team during the games and those 2 to 3 hours. And, I tend to think about them the next day and how sore we used to be and how bad my body hurt. And people just, they don't factor that in.
One thing I failed to mention also going on over the weekend, Indiana volleyball, they had their last home match yesterday against Michigan State, a team that on paper is better than Indiana, but the Hoosiers wrap up their home season with a big 3-0 win over the Spartans. So that was great for those ladies getting that done as their season continues. But I had the opportunity, this cracked me up. Afterwards, I was going to I raced over after soccer trying to get there for the end. I missed the end, but I was going to talk to Coach Steve. And since it was senior day, he was running around crazy busy. And this kid kind of comes up and commandeers. He said, she sees the tripod. He goes, hey, where's the camera? So I pull the camera out, put the camera on, and he wants to start videoing some stuff. The next thing I know, he's getting interviewed, and I have no idea who this kid is. I just thinking he's hilarious at the time. And let's hear, he ends up, I mic'd him up and did a quick interview yesterday. But it turned out it was Coach Steve Aird's son, Kalen. And this kid has got a personality that is just fun as heck. But here's a little short interview we did after the game.
Hi, this is me, Kaylin.
Here, I'll just interview you.
Said hi. Well, that's my brother over there next to my mom. And you see that guy with the red shirt and the gray pants? That's like me, but different, way different. He is more tinier than me, and his hair doesn't want to be like spread apart. Mine does.
Hold on, we gotta get the microphone going on here.
Mine can
come over here.
Hi, this is me, and I'm in the volleyball court, and
what?
Well, I'm gonna go,
Tell me
but
about the match today. How did it
well,
go?
it was good. It was good.
What was good about it?
Well, they won to
Who's they?
Who's they? Indiana won to 3-0, and it's very good because they worked hard, and they worked very hard.
Awesome. Looks like it's good for the future.
There's Kalen Aird, Coach Steve Aird's son. I had no idea who that was until afterwards because he kept saying, can you send that to my dad? Can you send it to my dad? I'm like, I don't have your dad's information. I said, who's your dad? And he said, I was like, okay, I got his information. It's so funny. But I talked to Coach afterwards. But what a great personality, great kid. Funny as all get out. Maybe he may have a future there, Todd. I can't hear Todd. He muted himself. Yeah.
I fat-faced mute myself way too often.
Can you give me a mute button for him, Jake? Can I have that button?
Hey, how old is that kid? That'll
6.
tell me how many years.
He's 6.
So I've got about 14 more years left in my career on here because he'll be taking my job. That's for sure.
He'll be taking both of our jobs. What are you talking about?
You and he seem to be on the same intellectual level during that conversation.
So you ain't lying.
I know.
You ain't lying.
Next time we're sending out for 6-year-old interviews, I know I'll send you.
You got that right. Tim texted, no Thanksgiving dinner for family unless you're Anthony Leo from Bloomington. Yeah, he's probably going to have a lot of people coming over for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah. That we. I know Chris Lawson was on our team as a freshman coming in from Bloomington South, and we were all planning on that. He just actually we didn't even have that opportunity. I know Mrs. Lawson would have loved for us all to come over, but we did. They booked us going to Dr. Bama's right off the bat, so it was. We also used to go to Dr. Sangalang's. You ever hear of Dr. Sangalang?
Nope.
Well, this was a lady who used to cook the best crab legs a human could ever eat. Man, we used to love going to Dr. Sangalang's house.
Well,
she was such a nice lady.
Speaking of Coach Aird, his wife is a 5-star chef.
Oh, my.
So that's where we would really like to be going to Thanksgiving
we know Indiana
dinner.
will be recruiting her then because we recruit all 5 stars.
Well, we know that Indiana's volleyball team is going to be well fed this week. They're lucky. They're the luckiest team that there is. I can promise you that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Ryan from Whitmore Lake, Michigan, listening to us, texted in, said UConn did win a national title with Coach Ali. They had Napier at the guard position. Yeah, that's when they upset Kentucky. You couldn't make it any finer.
Yeah, it'd be tough for me to root for UConn, but in that scenario, I guarantee I was. And I remember they got on a run. They had guards that were just unstoppable, and they got on a run at the right time. That's what I'm talking about. You don't know who that team is right now because there's a team out there right now that I doubt will all be factoring into who's going to have a great run in the NCAA tournament.
Yep, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to a fun week here. We've got a lot to get to. It's Thanksgiving in the middle of it, so plenty to do, plenty to get to. Of course, tonight, after the game with Todd Leary, coming to you live from Yogi's following Indiana's matchup with Louisiana Tech. That tips off at 8:30. Of course, we'll be live at Yogi's as soon as it's over. You can join us on Facebook Live on Indiana Sports Beats page, or some of the ones that we farm it out to. But if you want to send in comments or questions, it's best that you're on the Indiana Sports Beat Facebook page, or hit us up on the text line, the normal text line, 812-269-6367. And we'll get your questions, comments answered after the game. Of course, Todd's going to be wrong and I'll be right. But, we'll figure that out then. See, he muted himself again with his big fat face again, so luckily he can't even comment. I love it. This is when I got to hurry up and sneak and get out because he's still muted. He can't figure out how to unmute it. I'm looking at him. Oh, there we go.
I figured it out. Man, I'm going to have one of my kids teach me how to work these electronic devices.
Exactly. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for us today. We appreciate everybody joining us as always. Thanks a lot to Don Fischer for joining us as he always does. Thanks to Mike Schumann. We'll be back tomorrow. Chronic Hoosier will be on the program, and Nick Baumgart. We'll get to argue some more. We'll get Nick on with some numbers, and we'll go back and forth and battle on that. But we appreciate everybody. Of course, the Todd father, Todd Leary, with us as always. Jake's at the wheel, keeping us on the track. Thanks to Jake. And until tomorrow, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.